Hi, I'm Janae.
Hi, I'm Kyrie.
Hi, I'm Isaac.
So this is our discussion questions from chapter 12 to 21. So the first question is, what were some of the ways Bob Ewell was humiliated in the courts?
A way that Bob Ewell was humiliated in court was that when Atticus humiliated him because she proved how dangerous he could be, and when he attacked Jem and Scout to get back at Atticus.
Yeah, that. I can't cuss.
You can't add. You want to add on to that?
Yeah, I'm gonna add on to that. Another way, in the book, like in a prior chapter, in chapter 21, it was talking about how, what's his daughter? I can't remember what's his daughter's name. Something with an M.
Mayella.
Mayella, when she first came to him about the whole accusing, he was talking about how she got like a bruise under her eye, and then Atticus was kind of trying to make a point. If you don't fucking get up, trying to make a point that he didn't know which eye it was, and trying to make it seem like he was lying, because he was like, which eye was it? He was like, I don't remember, yada yada, and then Bob Ewell kind of went back. He was like, oh, I remember it was on this eye, and he just kept asking like, are you sure it was that eye? Like, yeah, it was kind of making him look like a fool. Cause then he asked, like, after when he told him like it was on the right eye, or left eye, he was like, was it on the left eye facing this way or side by side?
Okay.
Yeah,
So complicated.
You want to add on anything?
it's not complicated. It's supposed to give a discussion.
Do you want to add on to anything?
No.
All right. Next question. All right, come on.
Come on, next question.
Okay, so the next question is, Mayella was very upset when Atticus called her Miss. Discuss why this upset her so very much. So Mayella was very upset when Atticus called her Miss because she felt like she's being disrespected, and he was making fun of her because she has low self-esteem, and because she never really went out of the house. She never really talked to people, and then when she was treated with respect from other people, she didn't know how to handle it, and she didn't take it in the right way. She took it in the wrong way. Do you guys?
I feel like you explained it all correctly.
I agree with it. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's much more to add on to that.
So the next question is, what evidence do we have that Tom Robinson did not rape Mayella Ewell? And why did the Ewells accuse Tom Robinson of raping Mayella?
Let me see. Okay. Alright. So, they chose to accuse Tom Robinson of rape because Mayella, in reality, Mayella was trying to seduce Tom, seduce him, and pretty much he was trying to seduce him, and then like when Bob Ewell found out, he kind of got mad. So that's where the whole beating situation happened. What I think is he beat her up, and then they just try to blame it on Tom Robinson. So yeah, it's multiple questions to that. So.
But didn't his father and Tom see them through the window?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
And then she used a cover-up story, so they don't find out anything about what happened.
Yeah, you're right. But I'm just saying, like, they chose him specifically because
He was there.
he was there. Like,
Yeah.
like it'd be. I mean, it wasn't like, oh, we're gonna find a random person and we're gonna accuse him, but it was just a cover-up story for her trying to seduce him.
And so that she wouldn't get in trouble also.
Yeah.
And then some evidence that he didn't rape her was when he was walking by her house and she had invited him in to seduce him. She had lied about the door being broken and to get something from the dresser, and she had like jumped on top of him, and he thought it was like really weird, and it was weird. So but they couldn't really use that in the courtroom because it was only the two of them,
It
so
was
there
like-
wasn't really any witnesses.
It was like a he say, she say
Yeah.
type of thing. So it wasn't like no hardcore evidence, but it is like other side to the story.
Yeah.
And the door wasn't broken, so that was like a piece of evidence.
So Scout, Jem, and Dale watched the trial from the balcony. What message does this send to Maycomb?
The message that it kind of sends to them, because Dill, Scott, and Jim, as they're sitting into the, Dill, Scott, and Jim. Scout.
Scott.
Damn. Scout. Same thing. It's just an O and a U, you feel me? Anyway. Damn, I forgot what I was saying. Oh, when they were sitting down, they were sitting with colored people.
Mhm.
And that's kind of shows unity in my eyes.
Oh.
They
And
also got like a different perspective by sitting
yeah,
up there.
they also got the perspective of the actual,
Colored people.
yeah,
Like how they feel.
like it's the defendant side. No, the defendant side.
Well,
yeah.
I feel like they feel like a different perspective
Yeah,
from what other colored people look or not look like, but feel.
yeah.
compare
Like
themselves.
this trial was more than just that trial. I felt like they was fighting.
Like for racial purposes.
Yeah,
and
for
all that.
racial purposes, like the odds was kind of stacked against them. Like, yeah. Anyway,
And I feel like it was like a message to make like all of the races equal and treated equally, so nobody gets like a higher or a lower trial and all that.
yeah, and it kind of shows how big of a deal this case was in Maycomb, because
Mhm.
like even little kids were in the courtroom just trying to watch, because you knew how big it was in the town, so it was like a big deal. Next.
So Link D's disrupts the courtroom during Tom's testimony. What does this say about the varying opinions in Maycomb? Link D's is his boss that he has worked for about like 8 years, and they interrupted the courtroom to tell the judge and the jury that Tom wasn't a bad person, and that between the time that he was working for them, that he didn't do anything wrong, and that he was just a good person. And I think this talks about the different variations in their opinions in Maycomb. It shows that people are entitled to their opinions and that they should be heard, but when the judge had told them to sit down and be quiet, it kind of just muted what they wanted to say to defend Tom.
That's a lot said right there. I'm not gonna
Yeah.
lie.
Kinda got me lost right there.
Man. But nah, I agree with her. Yeah, I mean, like they interrupted the case to give I don't know, like they was backing up Tom and saying like he's never been a bad guy. So him going out his way to rape Mayeli was kind of like a Mayeli? No?
Mayella.
Mayella. I'm sorry, I'm bad with names, but yeah, it was kind of like, yeah, that was kind of a bad ending, but yeah.
So next question. Dill has to leave the courtroom because he is ill. What is the real problem?
So Dill actually leaves the courtroom not because he's ill, but because he's about to start to cry, I think. And yeah, Dill Dill's kind of a liar, so he kind of lies about things. So kind of said he was ill instead of asking him about to cry, because he was seeing how Tom was being treated, and it kind of made him emotional. Because Dill's kind of a weird cat. Weird. Yeah.
Oh, and the racism going on in the room makes Dill really like sick, too.
Oh yeah,
Like
not
upset
like
and angry.
Yeah.
like not like a real sickness,
Yeah,
but it
but
makes
like,
him like
makes his
uneasy.
head hurt and all
Yeah,
that.
uneasy. You know, kind of. Yeah.
So describe Dolphus Raymond. So far he's a wealthy white man.
He's rich. And
Yeah,
white.
he's he's rich and white.
Big M's. Yeah.
So he lives with a black mistress and I don't know if I'm saying right, but mulatto children. I think. Yeah.
I think that's right.
I mean, that's how I say it in my head. So.
And he also pretends to be drunk when he walks around the. So he also pretends to be drunk when he's out in the community and like walking around, so that when people look at him, they have an explanation for his behavior. But in reality,
Yeah,
he's
it's
just.
Coke.
Huh?
It's actually Coke he's drinking.
Yeah.
Fun fact,
but
guys.
he acts like it. But in reality, he's like a hypocritical man.
Yeah.
And he also prefers to live along the black community. Little side note.
I wanted to add on to this because when I was reading this part in the book, it was a not a fun part, but it was an interesting part to me because he fakes like he's drunk all the time, and he likes to drink fake like he's drinking whiskey, I think. And then Dill asked, I don't remember who took a sip, but when they found out it was Coke, he explained himself like it was like a reason for the town to understand why he's why he lives around like the colored people, and he has like it was his way to giving the town an out and like making them understand, and like they be like, oh, he's just
A drunk man.
he's just a drunk man, like they say the whiskey got him or something like that. And I was just like, that's an interesting thing. Instead of him actually facing the fact and trying to convince everyone his point of view, he just want have them believe that he's just a drunk man and he doesn't know no better.
Yeah.
So that was kind of interesting.
So the next question is, Tom is found guilty. Who does this surprise the most and why? And then it says to think back to when Dale was upset. And what does another question? Oh, I think after we answer the first one, we can answer that.
Kurt, can you stop?
Yeah, bro.
Can you stop? We know who your teachers are. Thank you. Please walk on. Excuse
So,
that.
Tom is found guilty. Who does this surprise the most and why?
So y'all wanna go first or like?
I feel that Jem is the most surprised because after hearing all the jury one by one say that he was guilty, he felt a pit in his stomach and slumped down in his chair.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's like a lot of people you can say. Personally, me, I feel like Dill's the most shocked because he was the most emotional out of the two kids.
Yeah, because he left the courtroom.
He left the courtroom earlier, but even once he found out, in the book they were saying how like Dill was like gripping onto the rail.
The rail?
Yeah, the rail of the balcony of where they was at, and then once he heard them like guilty, all the jury's decisions, and it was all guilty. He like every single time it felt like he was getting. They said it felt like a separate stab to his chest, so he was like, like all dramatic. So that's I think it's Dill.
He had a real connection.
Yeah, he had a real connection between Tom and Tom Robinson, but he didn't even know him. He just had an emotional connection throughout the trial. You can also say it was Atticus, but Atticus ain't show it. But he just once he heard it, he grabbed his stuff.
He just walked out.
He said something to Tom. We don't know what it was, and he just walked out. He didn't even look up at Jim and Scout. He just walked out of the courtroom.
I think majority of the people were like really upset because they thought that Tom would have won the trial, but because there's so much like racial inequality, he ended up being guilty when he actually wasn't.
Like we all know that man ain't even do it. But it's like the whole courtroom was convinced throughout the trial, but he still got convicted. So it was real shocking. I mean, in the book, for me, I'm kind of like surprised the black community wasn't as shocked as they were. I mean, they were shocked, but I would expect they had a bigger part in the book when they found out. I would have been throwing a riot or like, what? Yeah. But nah, yeah.
So another question that goes with number 8 is, what does youth have that adults don't, and what do adults have that the youth doesn't?
So And that's kind of a not confusing, but kind of multiple ways you can take that question. But for me, I'm gonna say the youth have more of a clearer outlook. Like as you're an adult, you've been through a certain experience and you already went through everything to the non-colored people, they see a colored person as something already because they went through a childhood of being taught that, and the youth still have things to learn, and they still have a genuine opinion on the trial other than the adults. And the adults also have a voice, unlike the children, in the matter they actually can speak out on something other than Scout nor Jim can make any they can make a comment, but it won't affect the overall trial. So
I feel like in general, just the youth isn't heard as much as the adults because they're considered naive and their opinions don't ever matter. Whereas the adults can always voice their opinions and they're always considered right instead of the youth.
Yeah.
So last question. Maycomb is on the verge of a cultural shift. What is it?
Well, I think what the shift is that when any white person is associated with a black person or anything, they are always discriminated upon themselves, and a lot of white people don't want to accept African Americans to have anything to contribute with anything that white people do.
Yeah.
And a lot of people noticing that black people are kind of getting with white people and they want to get together and all that.
Yeah, so me and Isaac was discussing this question previous to recording, and we said that we believe the cultural shift is the acceptance of colored people in Maycomb. You can slowly see more and more people coming to us, getting the best of along, but it's better than
They're coming to their senses.
They're coming to their senses. Atticus was the first, it was the first person to really see the acceptance with colored people. Him and Calpurnia, and any people, and then even the colored people accepting Jim and Jim, Scout, and Dill in the trial, or when they went over to Calpurnia's house and the church. You can see them slowly accepting. Some people are still against it, but you can see the cultural shift in a few more years, 2 decades. If it continues like that, it might not even be a problem anymore.
Yeah.
So yepper doodles.
So that's it for our discussion.
End of our podcast. Subscribe. It's your host with the most.
Alright, stop it.
Belgique.